So another tool in the tool bag. But you have to do a little bit of work with labeling, have to understand it. That requires some work ahead of time. Classification, labeling.
Yeah. Are our clients asking for that? Are our clients aware of that at this point?
That specifically, no, they're aware of the fact that Copilot is a danger, and one of the tools that Copilot for 365, and one of the tools that might help is labeling. But labeling by itself is a fairly confusing,
yes,
product. Labels, especially.
Who labels it? How do they label it? How do you control the standards over labeling? What's the procedure?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even the licensing comes into play here. When you want to manually label, if you want to have users in charge of labeling things, great. You can get by with most labeling for user manually labeling with the Microsoft E3. Any form of automatic labeling, like if I want to point to a SharePoint library and say, I would like everything in that library labeled a certain way.
Yep.
Or I want to find everything in SharePoint that seems to look like a social security number with a person's name next to it, high confidence kind of stuff. I want that to be labeled a certain way. Any form of automatic labeling, then we need the higher Microsoft E5 license or the E5 security or compliance or security add-on.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Has that been a driver for people going to E5? Is there a strong enough ROI on that alone? Or?
It has. So yeah, that's a great thing because it can go through and label stuff automatically. In addition to that, though, you get a lot of other benefits. If that almost gets you there, then all the other benefits of the Microsoft E5 security focused or purview focused will pull you over the line. And again, most companies right now at least have a Microsoft E3 license. Smaller companies might have a business premium license, and that's kind of a weird hodgepodge. Yeah. You get a few of the advanced, for instance, Defender and Purview products, not a lot, but most companies that we deal with, they'll start out with the Microsoft E3. And they're looking at the jump between the E3 and the E5. Well, that's a good chunk of money per user. You can cut that in half and actually get the purview part of it,
okay,
so that you can do the advanced labeling, the advanced DLP, exact data match. Have.
And when you say advanced, you mean automated or just looking at sites?
Exactly.
Group kind of actions.
Yeah, more than just just the general stuff. With regular DLP, it's easy to do it from the cloud. I can say Exchange, Mailbox. Don't let these kinds of emails leave, or don't let people in SharePoint. Don't let people share stuff that looks like this.
Yeah.
Right? With the advanced one, now we can move that into other products, into Microsoft's Cloud App Security Broker.
What is that?
They call it now Defender, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And Cloud App Security Broker is a standard tool now in the industry meant to extend your security from, like, let's say in Microsoft 365 Office products into third-party SaaS apps like Dropbox, like Box, like Salesforce. What if I don't want people to share something that's in Dropbox with some external party? How am I going to do that? I have to tell Dropbox that somehow. Or what if I want
You have to know that they're using Dropbox to begin with.
That's a key for Cloud App Security Broker, actually. And people get that confused. They're like, well, we'll just turn it on and tell it that we don't want, we want certain things to be kept out of Dropbox, or we want to label stuff in Dropbox. But the Cloud App Security Broker doesn't really do that. You actually have to be in control of everything. You have to own that Dropbox, first of all. You have to own your instance and be an administrator. You can't just have your users randomly going there. And you have to connect Dropbox to Entra ID, first of all.
You have to know about it, control it.
And control it.
And how often does that happen?
Yeah, it should be happening a lot more often than it does happen. Most people have a single sign-on from Entra to a service like that. And if that's a great start, because if that's the case, now we're using our accounts, great. Now we can connect it to the Cloud Security Broker and start putting rules out. But, for the random stuff, or, if I want to block a PC, Windows PC, from this uploading my crown jewels that I've labeled, let's say I've labeled stuff a certain way, I don't want that stuff to go to some sites on the internet, Dropbox.
Yeah. Let's
say that we haven't connected. How do I do that? There actually is a way to do it. Again, with Microsoft, this is something called endpoint DLP. We can, instead of doing the cloud DLP, there's a lot of DLPs. We have the cloud DLP, we have DLP that works with the Cloud App Security Broker, Defender for Cloud Apps, and there's an endpoint DLP. An endpoint DLP creates rules based on the point of view of the device. What's the device doing? Device, let's say, is trying to upload something to some website somewhere. Doesn't matter who, account, what account is being used. The browsers are trying to go to a website and trying to paste something or upload something that we have marked as sensitive. We can block that.
Okay.
Requires some work. Edge works like out of the box almost, as you can imagine. The other browsers that we would use, Chrome, Firefox, require a little bit of work. We have to install some extensions on them so that they can play ball with all of this. But you can do things like that. You can also tell endpoint DLP, don't let any sync apps touch that either, because that's different. If I have a Dropbox client on my machine, that would bypass that browser and it would sync it a different way. So we can also tell sync apps not to touch it. I can also say, just don't let it be anything be copied into the clipboard. Don't let it be put on a USB drive. Don't let it be printed.
Yeah.
So these are all things that you can put on endpoint DLP, and these are your choices for what can be done. Whereas in the cloud, we're just saying, I don't want this to be able to be shared externally from SharePoint. I don't want an attachment to be attached to Exchange that matches this. Those are your basic choices for Office 365. For the endpoint, you got a few more. And again, CASB, you can, even depending on the product and the SaaS APIs, you can do even more.
So we're talking about Copilot and the different security components. What about, MFA? And I hear a lot about zero trust. What's that stuff?
Again,
is it important for this?
Of course. It's important for everything. But again, Copilot has surfaced this in a way that wasn't there before because of the supercharged version of an attacker that will manifest itself if an attacker successfully attacks somebody with a Copilot license, because now they can see everything in an instant. So yeah, MFA authentication, let's call it in general, must be strengthened. Everybody can use some authentication strengthening. So yes, MFA is a beginning. I know my password. I should have something else that proves I am who I say I am. And really, the industry is moving kind of beyond that to make it even more difficult for someone to get in. So all of those things should be on the table.